I dropped Jagaaaaaan, and it has a lot of A's in it, so maybe I'll put it in the title, maybe I won't. Jagaaaaaan had so much potential. It honestly had so much potential, and here's what happened. It's getting dragged out. That is what is happening. It is a story that very much could have ended at the end of this like hero group arc, right? Or it could have ended, maybe 20 chapters ago. But it's very much one of these things where it's showing success, so it's going to drag out the story for as long as humanly possible. And I'm disappointed. I really am. I really did like this manga, but I don't like where it's heading. I don't like that the chapters are getting slower and slower. Progress is just going at a snail's pace. Villains are just boring now when they used to be interesting. And one of the biggest things, is that I actually really, really like the art in this series. The art is made by one of the guys who did the I Am a Hero and Nagasaki spin-offs, the spin-offs of I Am a Hero, which I very highly recommend. I very highly recommend that you read I Am a Hero. It's a very good manga. Don't listen to people that say the ending is bad. The ending is not bad. By the way, let's get back to Jagaaaaaan. Jagaaaaaan, you have our main character, Jagasaki. And basically, Jagasaki is this police officer. He lives with his girlfriend. He's a really boring, mundane life, and he just wants to shoot things, right? Cut to these crazy people with powers, and it turns out that they get these powers because there's these frogs. These frogs rain down from the skies, and when they go into someone, they like give them powers and like transform them into a monster, basically. Jagasaki gets one and he becomes Jagaaaaaan. And so as Jagaaaaaan, he has this like gun arm, and it's like really, really cool. And the art's really good. And there's this bird, right? There's like owls. And the bird basically explains to him that like if you... Or wait, cut back a little bit more. Basically his girlfriend ends up dying. But it's revealed by the birds that like if he collects all the frenzied frogs, if he collects all the frogs, he can get like a Dragon Ball wish, basically. And I'll be honest, this motivation worked very early on, but later in the story, it just doesn't work anymore. It's not a strong motivation, and there needs to be a new motivation. But basically, if he gets all the frogs, he can bring his girlfriend back to life. But the twist being is that he has a frog in him himself. So he has to kill himself in order to bring back the person that he kind of loved. That's the thing, is that there's not a lot of shown, like, love between him and his girlfriend. Like, it's sort of just implied. It's like him telling you that he really likes his girlfriend. It's like, well, why don't you show me that you really like your girlfriend? Or maybe do a few like early chapters to help build the relationship. As far as I know, she's just some girl that lived in his apartment. But either way, Jagaaaaaan, he goes around, he fights other people who have special powers. He ends up running into this group where they basically say, like, we're going to become the Justice League, and we're going to help, protect people from those who use these powers for wrong. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'll join you. And then, this is where there's supposed to be like a turning point, because the leader of said like superhero group ends up going on like a crazy rampage, and he basically is like, I'm not gonna believe in heroes anymore. And he kind of becomes a bit like edgelordy, which I didn't really like. There's some birds outside, so forgive me if you hear that. But he starts becoming a little bit like edgelordy, and then there's like this special police force that's like, you've got to join us because everyone knows about Jagaaaaaan. Everyone knows about Jagaaaaaan. People just start referring to him as Jagaaaaaan, and I'm just like, oh, okay. And so there's this special police force that's like, you got to join us. Special police force ends up breaking up as well. It's like every group he's in ends up breaking up. They introduce a new villain group. The newest villain group is run by this guy who is pretty freaky looking, I'm not gonna lie. His name is spelled like Nomen, but apparently it's pronounced similar to like human, I believe is what the manga said. I don't know. He's not very interesting. The only interesting villain is this character known as Chiharu, who is like this Groot dude who can like manipulate roots, and like basically he's super overpowered. And it's sort of revealed, sort of not, that he knows a lot more about these like frenzied frogs, and that he may or may not be like creating artificial frogs that like make people even stronger, kind of thing. I don't know. He didn't really get a lot, and then he ended up becoming an ally of Jagan, but like it turns out that he probably is going to be the final boss, so they're probably not going to be allies for long. I don't know. A lot wasn't happening. They started introducing new characters. Jagan himself became like an edgelord where he's like, I don't work with anyone, and then he like, just doesn't really like grow as a character. He's just like the super overpowered dude now, where like he has bullets that can lodge themselves inside you and then detonate, like a remote detonate. So that's how he keeps like a lot of his allies, is he's like, if you try to double cross me, I'll blow you up, kind of thing. And it's like, oh, okay dude, whatever. But there's also some like major deviations in the story. The first one comes from the character Motomu, or Robohata, I believe they refer to him by his last name. He's like the first deviation in which he has like an ability where, and this is where it gets pretty like adult oriented. I should very much specify. You should not read this if you are under the age of 18 or whatever your country deems as an adult. But basically this character, Robohata, he basically has the power where if he God, it's gonna sound weird, but he has like this xenomorph tongue where like if he inserts it into a woman, they become like sexually attracted to him, and like they only think about having sex with him. And it's kind of just like it's kind of gross, to be honest. And it's like a good 30-40ish chapters of him just going around and assaulting women, and it's kind of just like, okay. And then he dies in like a really unceremonious, very anticlimactic way, and just kind of just like, I guess he's dead. There's this other character that the story deviates with, where he basically gets his powers, and his powers is that he can steal the body of someone and like become that person. And so he goes from male to female, and he starts like experiencing like what it's like to be a female. But and this is where like, again, it's like come on. He basically he lives with these other dudes in the house, and this other, like there's another girl obviously, and they have like a shared room. And he starts getting in a relationship with one of the dudes, but then the other dudes find out and blackmail him. And keep in mind, he's supposed to be a female, but I'm saying him because he is a guy trapped in a girl's body. And basically he then gets assaulted by the other roommates, and then he like has to, like get with this like old fat ugly dude, so then that way he can help Jagan, because he wants to help Jagan. He has to distract this like CEO dude by like pleasuring him in his hotel room, and it's kind of just like, this is gross. This is just gross. What are we doing here? Go back to the fights. The fights are interesting. And then there's also this weird thing where they try to make like this love triangle with the Jagan dude, where you have this blonde girl named Belle, right? And he really likes her. She was a police officer, a coworker, and they end up developing a relationship. But he ends up doing the whole, I need to protect you, so I can't be with you. It's better that you don't, associate yourself with me, kind of thing. And it's like, all right, dude, whatever. Either way, you have Belle, and then you have this other character named Yuma. Her whole thing is that she really likes him because he's really cool. She is also very well endowed, much more well endowed than Belle. And it's kind of just like, I mean, he doesn't really even show feelings towards her. She very much just sort of like forces herself on him. And then he always kind of just like, haha, what are you doing? Kind of thing. And it's just kind of like, it's not a love triangle. This isn't interesting. I don't know. The problem is that this manga series introduces a lot of side characters that just don't do anything. Like, and the villains are very weak. It started off as like monster of the week, where it's like, who is Jagan gonna fight this time? And then you had a really strong character, Chiharu, who has personality, who has charisma, who has motivation, who has a bit of mystery, but still gives information to Jagan. And he very obviously shows Jagan that like he's like, you're not ready yet, but we're gonna fight. And when we fight, you'll be stronger, kind of thing. But he gets pushed to the side way too often. I read 129 chapters. I don't think this is gonna end anytime soon. It really does feel like it's gonna be closer to 300 than 200, with the amount of just dragged out side plots and side characters and introduction of new enemies and new characters. It really does feel like this is going to get out of control very, very fast, and there's going to be a point where for 50 plus chapters nothing's going to happen. It had potential and I really did want to like it, but unfortunately Jagaaaaaan is not Rambling Brother approved. Do not waste your time with Jagaaaaaan.